Hello everyone, and welcome to Alternate Future of the World Season 2. Finally, after a few months of waiting and a trailer and some teasers and so on and so forth, Season 2 is finally here, and as you can see, we are not on the typical world map. For the first time ever, I believe, we are on the World War II map on this channel, and I'm super excited for this because we're going to be starting in the year 1936, and we'll be working our way obviously up to the present, to the modern day, and then past that, so the future. So we're going to be starting in 1936, and from there, of course, we're going to move up to the modern day, and then from there we'll go on to the alternate future. So I guess you could technically say this is alternate history at this point, but nah, we're going to keep the name alternate future. And yeah, so if you guys do enjoy this video and eventually series, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you are new. All support is greatly appreciated. This series is super hyped up. I know you guys have been waiting, and I'm excited to get started. So let's go ahead and do just that. So like I said, we are in the year 1936. So obviously it looks very different. We have China just before it split apart into a civil war. Of course, we have Japan and Korea. Africa, most notably, is divided up, and I tried my best to do this correctly. There might be some errors. Like, I know that Egypt is technically not, well, it was under British control, but it wasn't officially like a part of the empire. It was just occupied by the British. But I tried my best with the colonies in Africa. I think it's, for the most part, pretty accurate. South America, of course, hasn't even changed since World War II. I mean, it has, but it doesn't look any different from here. We have the British over here in Newfoundland. We have, of course, Germany and Europe looking different. And then most notably, the Soviet Union is a thing. So if you guys haven't watched the trailer for season 2 or the ending of season 1, go watch that. It's pretty important to like understand the lore of the series. And yes, the series does have lore, but you'll notice something a little bit different about Switzerland in the upcoming episodes. But for now, 1936, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so obviously the man with the funny mustache is elected into power in Germany. We have some interesting ideologies going across the world and mainly Europe, but Spain, the Spanish Civil War. All right, so the Spanish Civil War erupts between the Republicans and the nationalists. In real life, the nationalists won and Spain went fascist for a little bit, but this is the alternative future, but not yet. So the Civil War plays out similarly. At first, there isn't really much happening. The nationalists make a little bit of gains here and there. Eventually, this upper area falls to them, and they start and advance into Catalonia. They eventually meet up and break off that part of Spain from the rest of Spain, and from here, they essentially just kind of inch their way around Spain, wiping out these areas. The upper area falls, and then from there, it's kind of the blue surrender. So the nationalists win just like how they did in real life. Obviously, this isn't going to change anything, so this is still history at this point. Now, while this was happening, some other things were happening in Europe and around the world, but of course this was 1939 when the Spanish Civil War happened, so let's take a look at elsewhere. Now, as we know, with Germany, they annexed Austria, they took the Sudetenland, invaded Czechoslovakia, and then invaded Poland, which started World War II. I mean, you can make the argument World War II started over here in China, but just for our purposes, it's going to start in Europe. Now, the main difference here is that Switzerland is going to go ahead and send diplomats over to Austria to warn them about the impending doom that would happen if they were to join Germany. Austria is going to consider Switzerland's kind of like, hey, don't do this. But in the end, they ultimately choose to still accept Germany's ultimatum and be a part of the German Reich. Now, seeing that the history is very hard to change, Switzerland, and once again, if you haven't seen the trailer for season 2, go watch that before you watch this, because this isn't going to make much sense unless you do. But basically, this Switzerland isn't the Switzerland from this timeline. Next up, we have Switzerland sending diplomats over to Czechoslovakia, France, and of course the UK. These guys are the allies. Switzerland's basically just saying, hey, don't let Germany boss you around or it's going to come back to bite you. And the allies listen for the most part, and it's going to change a little bit, but not too much. Eventually, we have Germany, of course, sending their ultimatum over to Czechoslovakia, demanding the Sudetenland. The allies are going to intervene, and a negotiation is going to be worked out with Germany getting the Sudetenland. So with the Sudetenland now German, Switzerland is once again like baffled that the allies are not doing anything to stop Germany. But then again, that's how it played out in real life. You know, the allies tried their best to appease Germany. That didn't work, and that led to World War II. So now Switzerland is going to once again send its diplomats to Paris, to Prague, and then also to London, and even the United States now saying, hey, something is going to happen if you don't stop doing nothing. This time, France and the UK are going to listen to Switzerland saying, hey, you know what? Fine. Let's listen to Switzerland. Apparently, Germany is not going to stop at Czechoslovakia, and they're going to invade them. If they do that, we will intervene. And what would you know? Germany invades Czechoslovakia, except this time, repercussions. France and the UK join the war. Now, this looks very unfair. Just to say the least. Of course, this isn't modern day. If this was modern day, Germany would be freaking just dead. But this is 1939-ish, so they're fine. But the British and French empires are at war with the Germans, and Canada is going to get called into this war. Once again, if there's any inaccuracies with the map or what I color in, I apologize. I'm not like super familiar with the World War II period. I have a pretty good grasp of what happened and how it happened, but the world map, not like as, I don't want to say as good as I should be, but like not like super duper detailed, just detailed. But I feel like this is right. Of course, if I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. So yeah, the Germans and the British and the French are at war, and this is going to be a little bit different. Didn't color in. We're good now. So we have the German army rolling through the Czech area of Czechoslovakia, and they're pretty much wiped out almost immediately. Of course, they're going to get near Slovakia, but eventually Slovakia is going to go ahead and surrender over to the Germans. I wanted to say capitulate, but I'm not sure if they would. Now, of course, this is going to be pretty similar to World War II. Now, of course, Poland is still a thing, so that is one part that is different, but the Germans are going to go ahead and roll on through Denmark, still only taking 6 hours to do so. But this is where the Swiss are once again going to intervene. They're going to go ahead and warn the Allies that Germany will attack Norway next. So we have the British Royal Navy going up and kind of taking control of the northern Baltic Sea. We also have the French Navy aiding in that. And when the time comes for Germany to invade Norway, they of course declare war on Norway, which I don't think they did that in the actual timeline, but it's fine. But there is a huge naval battle right here between the Strait of Norway and Denmark, and it's really back and forth. No one really wins it. So at this point, it is around 1940, and the pact between Germany, Italy, and Japan is going to be signed, and this is going to officially create the Axis. So with that signing, Italy is going to go ahead and be brought into the war on the side of Germany, of course. Now they had Albania, they had Libya, and of course, like I said earlier, they had Ethiopia. Now with Italy's help in the south, they're going to go ahead and start an invasion of France. Now this is going to be barely anything because the Italian army is still fairly incompetent in this timeline, but they are going to go ahead and take Corsica and Malta from the British. In Africa, however, much similar to real life, Italy's colonies are pretty screwed. Now, I don't care if this isn't necessarily historically accurate. I know there was a lot of fighting going on over here between Italy and the Allies, but the Allies have pretty good control over all of what's happening down here. And this is once again in large part thanks to Switzerland informing them of the world events. Japan is finally going to join the war, and with that declare war on China. And this is where the Swiss really don't help out and change the timeline at all. But the Japanese invasion of China and even French Indochina, which will happen eventually, is going to go roughly the same. With this little bit of a changed timeline though, Germany is going to do things a little bit differently. Hungary and Romania and Bulgaria are going to join the war a little bit earlier than they did, I think. Just a little bit, it's like a year earlier. At the same time, we also have the Soviet Union annexing the Baltics just as it did, and Soviet troops start to line up on the border of Poland. Now Poland is unaligned at this point. They didn't ally with the Allies because of course Germany never invaded them, but that might soon change with Soviet troops on their border. Back over here in Europe, we have another similar event happening. This time it's in later 1940 as opposed to like mid 1940, but German troops start to roll through the three lowland countries and wipe them out completely, now lining up on the border of France. Now except this time France is ready for it. Once again, Switzerland, being the almighty god that it is, has informed the Allies of Germany's pretty much every move. So now Germany is pretty screwed. They are going to advance a little bit further into France. Dunkirk doesn't happen, and a lot of British troops and French troops are saved from that, which is going to help them out extremely well. But yeah, Germany's advance into France doesn't really happen. Unfortunately though, Yugoslavia does happen, and the Axis declares war on it. Italy of course is going to go for the lands it wants, but also the Balkan countries around it are going to help in the invasion of Yugoslavia until eventually, not even a few days in, well I don't want to say a few days, but not even a few weeks in, Yugoslavia is going to surrender. Switzerland informed the Allies of this, but the Allies determined that there isn't really anything they can do to prevent it since the Yugoslavians are kind of screwed in where they are. But hey, a new event's going to take place that didn't happen in real life. Well, technically it did, but in a different manner. The Soviets are going to go ahead and declare war on Poland. So Soviet troops enter in from the east, and they do not stop. Now Switzerland is going to go ahead and send another message over to the Allies informing them of Germany's ultimate fate if they do invade the Soviet Union. But this is 1939, 1941, the age of spies and, you know, intercepted messages. Germany's going to get a hold of this message. They're going to look at it and say like, how the hell do they even know? But for the most part, Germany's like, ah, I see. So Germany aka their leader, you know who, goes over to Moscow, meets up with Joseph Stalin's like, yo, so want to split Poland? And Stalin's like, yeah, sure. Switzerland never told Stalin about what would happen if he like allied with Germany, but once again Switzerland's just kind of sticking with the Allies. So the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact does happen, except it's a little bit later in time, but nonetheless the same thing happens with Germany invading Poland. Much like real life, nothing is really going to happen with Poland here. They're just going to get steamrolled. The borders are going to look a little bit different since the Soviets technically started invading first. But yeah, Poland, they officially joined the Allies right as they were collapsing, meaning that this can't be sorted out until this is sorted out. And yeah, let's just say that it's going to take a little bit. So now Germany knows that Switzerland knows some stuff that it shouldn't know, and Germany is going to infiltrate Switzerland with spies, and they find out that the whole Greece thing with Italy kind of does not work. So Germany sends reinforcements with Italy, and together they send armies down to Greece in order to, well, invade it. Since Germany knows of Italy's failure in Greece, this is going to go particularly well. The Balkans move in, and eventually Greece falls. At this point, it's time for us to take a look at Africa. So Italy lost their colony, and so they did over here too. Italy kind of didn't do anything in Africa. Over here in Asia, we have, well, Japan doing its thing, not being stopped by anybody. The US is still going to declare its neutrality in this timeline, not getting involved. But hey, Germany figured out something else. They figured out how World War II kind of goes not good for the Axis and Pearl Harbor. So Germany goes to Japan and says, do not attack Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, or else. Japan's going to be like, how did you know we were going to do that? But also they're going to be like, fine, we won't do that. Japan never attacks America, and hence the United States is never going to join this war. That is a huge, huge point. Elsewhere, we have the Soviets doing shenanigans in Finland and it not working out very well. So this is going to be ongoing for the rest of this war, which at this point is technically World War II. But some more interesting things are going to happen. Like we have Turkey joining the war on the side of the Axis. Spain officially joins the war with the Axis, creating another front in southern France. Portugal declares its neutrality, kind of defying the British in this matter. They don't mean it. It's just kind of, they would get crushed immediately. Spain's going to lose the little portion of Africa, as well as Western Sahara, Equatorial Guinea, and other parts. So at this point, the Axis is doing extremely well in Europe and technically in China too. Japan's going to continue to invade China and get even more land out of it. This time now going all the way down to the southern coast of China and even crossing over into French Indochina. Switzerland at this point is begging the Allies, as in the UK and France, to get America to join this war because that's really the only way they're going to win at this point, with Germany having knowledge not to invade the Soviet Union during this time, and to also not let Japan attack the US. But the US is hesitant and does not budge, leading to not greatness for the Allies. Germany's going to eventually punch their way through using troops that would have invaded the Soviet Union. They sweep across France much like they did in real life, taking Paris. Spain manages to break through as well. Same with Italy. The southern coast of France is lost, and the Germans wrap around all the way over to Brittany. They now sweep through the countryside of France until eventually the country is lost as it capitulates. At this point, the French colonial colonies are going to assume a new government, which is, of course, Free France, which happened in real life. The British are going to aid them, and for now they hold on to these colonies. The Axis doesn't really see a point in trying to invade it. Instead, the Battle of Britain is going to start. Over in the Middle East, we have Turkey invading the French colony of Syria and the British colony of Iraq. Cyprus falls over to the Turks, and from here progress is slow. Back in China, Japan continues to push through the Chinese coast areas, taking over all of their major cities and sort of leading to the collapse of China. Without the Americans in this war, Japan can solely focus in on China, and that is exactly what they're doing, cashing in on the southern region, which they kind of struggled with in real life. They also cash in the northern region, wiping out this entire area. And yeah, so World War II is now heavily in favor of the Axis. Of course, when looking at this map, you would disagree, but when you look at the powers, France being one of them, it's not looking too great. The Germans were still unable to invade through Norway, but the Battle of Britain, with their navy now being all spread out across this area, the Royal Navy is kind of being screwed up heavily by Germany. So much so that Germany finally makes its landing in Norway, takes Oslo, and from here, they just take the major cities and Norway surrenders. So now, the UK is literally all alone. Churchill gives his "we will fight on the beaches" speech, and the world is kind of shocked. Of course, it did look like this in real life at one point, and then Germany invaded the Soviet Union, but they know not to do that now. Instead, the Soviet Union is more focused on Afghanistan and Iran, and even Mongolia, but they're part of the Comintern. Also, where's the funny place? It's not here. That's weird. Also, I know there was some land changing going on over here with the access between Hungary and Romania and Germany as well. I'm not worried about that. That's not like a greater impact kind of thing. That's more of a small thing. I'm mainly focusing on the greater impact stuff. But yeah, Switzerland's like hyperventilating right now because this is not going well. Instead of it going towards the Allies' favor, it's gotten more towards the Axis favor, and that's in most part thanks to Germany's spies. But yeah, at this point, Switzerland tells the UK just take the L. Either take the L or get America involved, and America is once again not budging at all. Sure, relations with the Japanese are very, very bad right now due to some stuff that the Japanese are doing, but other than that, America still sees no reason to join the war despite France, being lost and all that. Of course, America, like in real life, is still heavily supplying the British and Canada for the most part, but other than that, they're not joining this war. And with that, the war is going to go on for a few more months. In that time, we have the Axis revisiting Africa and starting to take more of France's colonies. We even see the Italians, of all people, doing stuff in Tunisia. Turkey now invades down to Israel and takes Jerusalem. They then focus in on Baghdad with the help and assistance of other Axis members. Japan is going to roll right on through China, and they even managed to cut off a portion of Indochina from the rest of Indochina. And with that, the Allies are now going to go ahead and agree to peace terms. And in this timeline, Switzerland has done the unthinkable, and instead of helping the Allies who they wanted to, they've helped Germany win World War II. Alright, so this is a huge peace treaty. Let's go ahead and start to break it down. Starting in Europe, of course, since Germany won this war, they're going to get a lot of land. This hurts. Germany is going to annex all of Czechia. They're going to take a little bit out of Yugoslavia. They're going to annex all of the lowland countries. They're going to take a little bit of France, including Alsace-Lorraine. They're going to take over their claims in Poland. They did a little treaty with the Soviets. I'll get to that here in a second, but they're also going to annex Denmark. They made a puppet out of Slovakia. They made a puppet out of Yugoslavia. They made a puppet out of Norway, and they also puppeted some of Britain's colonies, but we'll get to that in a hot second. As for Italy, they're going to annex Corsica. They're going to annex lands along the Adriatic Sea and Greece. They're going to expand their colonies in Africa, so getting a lot of Tunisia and a little bit of Egypt. They're going to take over Djibouti and Somaliland. As for the Balkans, Romania, Bulgaria, and Hungary are all going to split up Yugoslavia. And this is fairly accurate to how it went in real life when they were occupying it. So don't get too angry about these borders because this is fairly realistic for the most part. Now for Japan, this one is big. They took over a good portion of China, or at least all of the valuable parts of it, and they took French Indochina. So Japan is a huge power at this point now. So France is going to lose land to Germany, obviously, and they're going to lose some colonies like Morocco and Tunisia. The UK is going to lose a lot of colonies, but for the most part, they were fairly untouched. And then finally, I forgot about this one, but Turkey is going to take over Lebanon and a good portion of French Syria and British Iraq. Now at this point, the war is over and Germany is probably the most powerful country in the world. And with that, the Axis. Now, I haven't mentioned the Axis as in like the alliance yet, more of just the grouping of countries, but now it's officially the alliance. So we can now look at our first alliance map. So looking at the Axis here, there's a lot of breakdown. So the darker color gray here is going to be the Axis itself. So Germany, Italy, Spain, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Japan. The lighter colors are puppet states. Now all these puppets just happen to be German, so Norway, Slovakia, and Yugoslavia. But in the future, there will probably be more like lighter shades. But as we know, the Axis isn't the only alliance in the world. There's also the Allies. And that looks a little something like this. So when you look at it, it's a little evenly matched, but when you break it down, it really isn't at all. There's also some colony swapping happening between the British and the French in Africa. Just that's me trying to make the map look better, and so I don't have to remember as much. So like this is, I'm pretty sure it was English, but now it's French. This could stay English though. It's big enough. Also, we have to talk about Germany annexing Nigeria and Belgium as their own colonies now. And yeah, so over here in the Middle East, we have something interesting happening. We have the British and the French, instead of dividing it up and making it horrible, uniting it together and making it probably even more horrible. They're going to release this as kind of a country, but it's forced to be on the Allies. It's just going to be known as the Middle East in this series. And the British then are going to do something similar over here in Arabia, releasing this and just calling it Arabia. I know Saudi Arabia's there, but you know, the British aren't really the smartest with their names. Also, I forgot to mention, I think that this is not a country. This is a colony. They just combine their colonies together. This is a country though. This right here, country. This right here, colony. Anyway, that's gonna do it for part 1 of the alternate future of the world series. So, a lot happened in this episode, and my recording time is 55 minutes. My editor is going to piss himself when he sees the video length, but don't worry, it was a lot of me not talking instead of, it was probably just a majority of me like drawing the peace treaty. That took forever, and just fact checking myself. So yeah, this was a big video, but if you guys did enjoy, make sure to show some support on it. Let's get this video to 5,000 likes. That's extremely crazy. I think we usually do like maybe 3,000 likes, but why not just do 5,000 likes and we'll get a part 2 out as soon as possible. Maybe we'll think about it. We don't want to like push the series too much because I think this series is also going to have 20 episodes in it, just like the first season. That's not 100%. That can also be added on to, but for now, that's what I'm shooting for. And then season, I don't even want to talk about season 3, but if there is a season 3, then we'll get to that when we get to that. How about that? But yeah, show support. Thanks Jaden for editing this video. Of course, I should probably say thank you more often. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next video. And of course, thank you to all the super fans. This includes Patrick Clauser, Yo Moma Moma, Texan Cowboy Cheese, Kylie Speaks Plays, Poland Country Ball, Dimitri, DW Cool Dude, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Yakko, Soviet Ball, and Serminator. Once again, thank you guys.